So this is going to relate to things in the past a bit. What I wanted to be for sure of is, do I have the release of the Lord to release what I'm about to release? But some weeks ago, the Lord began to encounter me and deal with me in things that I watched, because of the spiritual nature of some of the experiences. One of them was a dream. So, but however, this morning, the Lord walks into the room there at Ralph and Sonia's house, the living room, and I don't know what they call them. You guys who are smarter about horses than I am would know. I mean, it's the guy who takes care of the horses. It's not the rider, not the jockey, but the person who takes care of the horses and has them under his power and his control. He walked into the room as that leading the red horse. Thought this shirt would be fitting. I brought it with me. I wasn't sure. I tell you, going back several weeks, I was alerted. I knew something was coming. I knew a little bit of what it was because of the dream, the experiences concerning the red horse. The red horse pawing he was in a stall, pawing, snorting at me. The Lord was standing over to my left at a distance, which I knew he was not ready to release that horse out of the stall. And so I walked up to the red horse and rebuked it. I said, "You just can't wait to be released to cause more murder, can you?" Didn't have a good attitude about it either. I didn't. Thinking, isn't there enough murder going on in the world? So anyway, this morning the Lord walks into the room leading the red horse and talking about, the red horse was completely under his control. He said, but once released, it would be different. So I'm going to read it. So today I saw the Lord enter the room while leading the red horse by its reins. The red horse was under the control of the Lord, but he told me that it was an uncontrollable horse by any other than himself. And that once released, it would be wild, enraged, terrifying, untamable toward all others. The red horse looked or stared right at me in a threatening way, in a menacing way, because we've met before, so to speak, in some of these encounters. And as the Lord led the horse further out into my vision, which is coming from the hall, if you've been at Ralph and Sonia's house, further in out of the hall, I could see the front part of the black horse right behind it, which would be the third horse. And I knew the pale horse was behind that one. I actually got up, walked out there down the hallway specifically to see it, and smelled the smell of death when I passed the pale horse, which is the death horse. So I also knew that these horses, this is, language that's not definable, but I also knew they were not long in being released. The two other horses, they're not yet though. Then I was shown the rider on the red horse, which was a hooded type of being similar to a grim reaper. When he had opened its mouth, and his mouth was open the entire time, there was just fire all in its mouth. It never spoke to me. When the Lord released the red horse, it had been staring at me, never took its eyes off of me. It charged me with a rider on it. But I just stood still. What are you going to do, run? That's the worst thing to do, huh? So as he got real close to me, a few inches, I spoke right to it and said, "I'm not afraid of you," which I'm not. And so the horse spoke to me and said this, which is a very needed discernment, what he said. He said, "You now see me, but soon the whole world will see me and know me." So I knew from that statement that even with this release now, what it's going to stir in the nations, which is war. All kinds of war. Not just world war, wars. In nations, within nations, civil unrest, civil. I've seen this for several years, by the way. This isn't part of the experience, but we'll see different nations in Europe soon. Totally different nations arise that aren't there presently. And the disappearing of others. So the Lord told me that the red horse would run its race, or this race actually, he's talking about the book of Revelation, all the way to the finish line or to the end now. So that was the encounter of the red horse being released by the Lord. I'm aware, guys, it was last year at this time on the 7th, which was a Saturday. This year it's the 8th, is the Saturday. A year ago today, when I was sitting right there, Gabriel appeared right here just as I was speaking. And Gabriel, I'm sitting on the end. Gabriel walked over, stood right there. His hand, forearm came right past my face, pointed towards my Bible that happened to be open, how I don't know, to Revelation chapter 5. And he said, "You are now in Revelation 5. And so I've gotten older, so I know to ask questions if you can without getting killed. I'm surprised I'm not already dead because I think stupid thoughts. And I do it with regularity. Must be an X-Lax type thing or something. Sorry. That's a dirty joke. Sorry. That's a pitiful humor, but it's the best I got. So it was a year ago today, it was 6 months ago, and 3 days, that October the 5th, that the first seal and the rider of the white horse was released. So I'm just aware. I don't look at that and say I establish a pattern every 6 months. I don't believe that. It happens when the Lord wants it to happen. He's the one in control of all horses. That's just so much the case. I'm not, he is. No one is but him. So the next time that red horse comes under control, it will be at the return of the Lord. That horse, all those horses will run to the very end. And they won't just one start, one an end. They won't all end. They'll all run. Right. None of them end till the Lord returns. That's just how that's going to play out. Am I being clear? Does that sound clear to everybody? So the 4 horses, or the rider of the apocalypse, they call them, run all the way to the return of the Lord, and he stops them. He's the horse handler. He not only stops them, he ends them, right? He'll be their end. So just want to release that. Everybody feel okay? Not feeling sick, are you? All right. So now let's look as we go toward the sword of the Lord. We're going to look at Old Testament tonight, and then in the morning we're going to get into the New Testament revelation of Christ in this same measure that we're going to look at tonight. Just going to look at it in the 2 Testaments. But let's look at the book of Ezekiel. Should be familiar since Josiah was in the book of Ezekiel last night. So we're going to look at the book of Ezekiel tonight. Just want y'all to know that y'all missed it. We know. Of course, I'm talking about the rapture. Along with the rest of us. That's right, along with the rest of us. It's going to be fun knowing one another in the tribulation. We're still here.